Lilo and Stitch is a remake travesty. You know, over the years I've tried to make more of an effort to not approach movies from such a negative angle. I can see the silver lining in something like the Minecraft movie, but this is different. I have no patience at all for these live-action Disney remake slop fests, where their only goal is to be able to push out a brand new wave of merchandise for decade-old films they've already pumped all money possible out of. There is no silver lining. And that's not to even say all of them are bad. I'm actually working on a project right now highlighting a couple I think are quite good, like the Cinderella remake. That video was made to come out before this one, but you know me, always infuriatingly late. And if you didn't know that, seems like you need to subscribe. I didn't sell it very well. But if Disney fucks up a remake of Snow White or Pinocchio, then, realistically, I don't care that much because I don't have too much attachment to those films. I never watched Snow White as a kid, and I grew up with that creepy live-action Pinocchio that still haunts my dreams. But this one's different. Lilo and Stitch is easily one of my favorite movies ever made. In my Disney ranking from a few years back, I put it at number 5, but in retrospect, I was not giving it enough credit. That needed to be at number 2, if not 1. I adore it. I gotta update that Disney ranking sometime. I have no clue what I was smoking in some of those cases. Why is Wreck-It Ralph 2 so high? I was baffled at the generally positive reception this movie has been getting until I realized that, on its own, it is fine at best, and utterly mediocre and borderline hard to follow at worst. But the average person, they don't give a crap. All they wanted to see out of a Lilo and Stitch remake was a slideshow of all the iconic moments from the film brought to life. Wow, it's just as gray as I had hoped it would be. I hated it, I really did. Which should go without saying considering Disney's track record with these remakes lately. But things only started to fall apart more when I got home from the theater and did something that cemented my hatred for this remake. I rewatched the original. And it is night and goddamn day just how much they fundamentally did not understand what they were adapting, and simply strung together a collection of memorable scenes from the first movie, just with worse acting, worse presentation, and worst of all, none of the substance that made any of those scenes iconic in the first place. I'm just rolling with it this time around. Usually I structure this like first I talk about the story, then the characters, but I have a million goddamn notes on this thing I took while watching both films that it's making me seriously consider just dropping like a 2-hour deconstruction on why just about every decision made for this movie was for the worse. And completely misunderstands what made the original stick with so many people, including me. So, for now, let me talk about the couple good things, and I do mean a couple, this won't take long. I enjoyed the added focus on the tourism in Lilo's town. This was always an aspect of the original movie, although a tad underplayed, mostly because that's not what the movie was about, but still, there was a subtle commentary here on Hawaiian tourism, and people who don't respect the land or its natives. Treating the location as nothing more than a holiday spot, even if the sequence that showed this off most blatantly wound up being cut before it was finalized.
Oh look, a real native!
It's missing the detail of Lilo taking pictures of everyone, which can either be seen as her replicating the people around her seeing nothing but tourists taking photos, or it can be seen as her sticking it to them. Like, you're gonna take photos of me in my town? Then fuck you, I'm gonna take photos of your fat ass and hang it in my fucking room. But they put a bit of focus on the resort Nanny ends up working at and how frequently Lilo breaks in, and I thought that was a fun addition. That's all. Really, I had a couple other positives written down. Like, I thought it was a solid concept to want to explore more of what Nanny gave up to take care of her sister after the death of her parents, such as going to college to be a marine biologist, but as I was writing it in my notes, I had to stop myself and say, but why though? Does this make the movie any better? The original already perfectly showcased the restrictions placed on Nani through being Lilo's guardian, the fact that she couldn't live a normal life. This is illustrated through her constantly turning down David because of Lilo, stopping her from pursuing a love life, as well as the fact that she spans the entire movie just barely keeping her head above water, before she finally drowns in it. Quite literally. You don't need to spend all this time establishing her other goals because it's not needed, it's not about that. You know, unless you want to go for a completely different ending than the original, which is definitely not the most predictable thing ever. And that's what it really boils down to. Everything this movie does different to the original just felt unneeded. What the first movie only needed an hour and 20 minutes to get across takes the remake 30 minutes extra, and everything in that added time was completely unnecessary and felt like it was only there for the sake of doing something different, and in the worst cases, actively makes the movie worse. So let's start with the new characters. First of all, Agent Bubbles is no longer Lilo's social worker, keeping an eye on Nani to ensure she's capable of taking care of her. Instead, it's this other random lady who was in the movie for like 5 minutes total. I was really confused by this because, in the original, Bubbles was so perfect because he was a threat towards Nani and Lilo. You know, new job, model citizen.
Good day.
Which then leads into both of them simultaneously trying to accomplish their respective goals, which they both fail at, and only gives Bubbles more of a reason to want to take Lilo away. Here, the social worker is just like, here's a list of stuff to do to improve your chances of keeping her. And then it's kind of dropped until the surfing scene where she almost drowns, where the social lady just steps in to say that if she gives up Lilo, then the state will pay for her medical bills. Like, on its own, it works fine, I guess. But it's undeniably worse than the original, especially since Bubbles is in this movie. It's just that the reveal of him working for the CIA is no longer a reveal. He's just been investigating Stitch from the beginning, and later poses as a social worker in order to get close to him. Like, why is he even here at this point? Better yet, just get rid of this social worker and make it Bubbles again. It worked just fine in the original. Did it really need changing? And I want to be clear, it's not the act of changing stuff I have a problem with. It's changing stuff in favor of a worse outcome. Despite being such a threat, Bubbles makes it clear in the original that he's only doing all this for the sake of Lilo. He cares about her safety, so it only makes sense why he'd stick around after all this. It's why the whole movie ends with the photo album, because the movie is about their found family. What about Ohana? Whereas here he only sticks around at the end because he told the space lady he'd keep an eye on Stitch. You know, sure, that works. They have all the big moments, but no connectives. Earlier I said the movie, at worst, was borderline hard to follow, which may sound confusing, you know, it's Lilo and Stitch, it's not the most complicated thing out there, right? But what I mean by that is, without the original to use as reference, a lot of the moments they attempt to give weight to, because they were in the original, is missing almost all the build-up that resulted in them being so effective in the first place. Everything connected perfectly in the original, each scene leading brilliantly into the next. Again, it was a tight movie. But now things just happen with no real rhyme or reason. Perfect example as it relates to one of the objectively worst aspects of the remake, coming in the form of Nani's new neighbor character. This sweet old lady who's always there to talk with her about her problems. Now already that removes one of the most crucial aspects that made you sympathize for Nani, and it's that she had no one to lean on. She had to be there for her sister, and because of that, it's easy to forget that her parents died too and she's still way too young for what's been put on her. No, she just has a nice parental figure who can give her advice and even take care of Lilo when she can't, sure. They introduced this lady with her telling Nani about how she should go to college and how she needs to think about herself too, and I was fucking rolling my eyes. Immediately I leaned over and was like, I'm telling you, they're gonna end this movie with, spoilers by the way, they're gonna end this movie with her deciding to adopt Lilo so Nani can go off to school. And that's exactly what ended up happening. You know, really this lady could have offered this at any time. But whoops, it's the end of the movie, we need some kind of out to fix everything. Nani is helpless and having to do everything by herself. Giving her this extra helping hand just lessens the stress she's clearly constantly under. And they use it at times where it's like, did you understand why certain scenes were even in the original? It's super easy to follow. Nani overhears Lilo wishing for a friend. Next scene, they're at the pond looking for a dog. It's quick, it's to the point, it shows Nani making an extra effort for her sister despite the added responsibility of having an animal. It's perfect. Here, Nani overhears the same wish, yet next time we see Lilo, she's bumming around the market with the old lady who I guess is willing to take care of her from time to time, in which Lilo just asks to go look at the dogs in the pond. Again, I cannot stress enough. It works, it is fine, but it only further removes a moment showcasing Nani's love for her sister. Also, if some neighbor was taking care of my kid for the day and came home with a fucking dog I have to take care of, I would be pissed. No, I'm not taking this. How about I come over to your house sometime with a rabbit for you to take care of, you rude asshole? Again, none of this inherently makes the movie worse. I think it's more of a death by 1,000 paper cuts situation where, sure, the movie isn't automatically bad without these moments, but it's that they're supplemented with either nothing or being replaced by a series of scenes of Jumba and Pleakley bumming around, but I'll talk more about that in a bit. Speaking of, Gantu isn't in this movie, like, at all. I can only assume it's because they didn't want to pay the money to animate him. I mean, they could barely be bothered animating Jumba and Pleakley, although in Pleakley's case it may have been a good thing we didn't have to look at this too much. They spend most of the movie in their human clone bodies, and because of that we of course have to hire some big actor to play him, Jumba being played by Jack Galifianakis of Hangover fame. And while in his human form, whatever, I kind of forget it's Jumba, who cares? But I would take that any day over hearing this voice coming out of this character.
Oh, hiding behind your little friend won't work anymore.
And smarter
Then 100 supercomputers!
Because there's no Gontu and Bubbles is no longer a social worker, the villain this time around is Jumba. That's right, they've turned him from this mad scientist creating these things with no concern for the damage it causes, and instead made him a mad scientist who actively seeks to cause damage. It may sound small, but it's a big difference. His plan at the end is to kidnap Stitch and turn him into the Leroy one from Lilo and Stitch. Okay? It just doesn't work as well as Gantu or Bubbles. This character is not threatening. He doesn't look threatening, sound threatening, do anything threatening, really. I think we were meant to be mad that he runs around Lilo's house purposefully destroying all the pictures with her family, but I was mainly just sitting there confused. Why the fuck does he care so much about doing this when his target is literally running away? Overall, I can see why they made Jumba the villain, mostly from a money-saving point of view. You don't have to animate another CGI character, you give him a portal gun so you don't have to show the characters getting inside the spaceship because that would be hard to coordinate. I get it just sucks. Most disappointing aspect of the movie was probably Lilo and Stitch themselves. To get it out of the way, because people still get really mad when you criticize kid actors even though it's nothing against them personally, I view it as they're getting paid to do a job, presumably very handsomely. If it isn't good, it's worth pointing out. And saying you should expect a kid to give a bad performance just undermines the kid actors who are good at acting, but whatever, Lilo sucks. I'm willing to bet a large part of that was the fault of the director and not the kid. She just isn't pushed as far as she is in the original. They really went out of their way to showcase how weird she was in the first, as well as highlighting her outbursts. And this one, it opens with her getting upset about Nani not showing up to her recital, and so she lightly shoves the girl next to her. Whereas in the original, she fucking jumps on top of a kid and beats her face in. Which of these two moments is more effective at showcasing this character has outbursts? She has that weird doll she talks about. She gives sandwiches to the fish and gives bizarre-ass explanations as to why. The doll and sandwich moment are in this movie, but they're just there without the emotional impact. They're simply here because they were in the original. It means we're missing out on excellent moments that perfectly illustrate her character through no words. Like after the girls insult her homemade doll, she gets upset and throws it on the ground, establishing her resentment over the fact that she can't make friends easy, and that she's seen as weird by just being herself. The doll is her in this instance. Before she runs back in, picks it up, and gives it a hug, because she knows that is the only friend she has. It's something important to her, and it instills her mindset that nobody gets left behind or forgotten. Oh, Hana. All of this is communicated without words in the span of like 10 seconds. It is brilliant. New Lilo has none of this. She's just little girl. Stitch I was most disappointed by. The arc he has in the original is so sad, and it is literally non-existent here. Stitch is made for nothing more than destruction. It is his purpose, with the movie focusing on whether or not he can change. This is shown through quieter moments that are completely absent from this movie, like when Jumba watches him from afar at night. He's already destroyed Lilo's whole room, so now what does he do? So now we just watch him walking around unsure of himself. What must it be like to have no memories to visit in the night? It is perfect. This movie doesn't even have the ugly duckling stuff, which results in some of the saddest moments of the original. The whole point is that Stitch realizes he might have a family out there, that he wants a family, people who get him and who unconditionally love him. We see him think about it. He takes the book literally, and in a moment of desperation attempts to recreate it, hoping his family will come. But they don't.
Lost.
Then, at the end, he fucking realizes that Lilo and Nani are his family. It's little and broken, but still good. This movie makes me so sad! And that not being here, again, would be fine if it were replaced with anything nearly as effective. But instead, there is nothing. This is a movie that is 30 minutes longer than the original, yet somehow has less substance. There's so much more I want to talk about, like how the editing sucks. I felt like I was watching the movie at 1.5 times speed at times with how fast things were. But really, it all requires me just playing clips for you, so I want to wait till it's available online. And then maybe I'll get around to revisiting it for a proper breakdown. Subscribe. Kids will love this movie, Disney adults will love this movie, but as someone who really, really loves the original Lilo and Stitch, this movie is dreadful. It is missing all of what made it so well remembered. It is a prime case of missing the forest for the trees the whole way through, missing any and all substance it needs to elevate this story into being the classic the original will always be. This movie will be forgotten to time in less than a year, while the first will continue to entertain for decades. Fuck you, Disney.